So Donald Trump recently said this about Vice President Kamala Harris.
But somebody's got to explain this one. This is a radical left, Marxist, communist, fascist.
A radical left, Marxist, communist, fascist. Okay, so we can't keep doing this, all right? We can't just keep throwing around giant accusatory terms without any sense of what the words mean.
I agree with her, and so should you. I mean, look at what we've seen from the liberal leftist Democrat Party since Stalin was their leader all the way back, in the early 1900s. Just a labeling of anybody who disagrees with the leftist Democrats as a fascist.
Stalin introduced the idea that if you oppose the left, you're a fascist. Basically, if you oppose me, the leading leftist, you're a fascist. So fascist became the term that anyone anti-left was called.
I don't think they have any clue what the term fascist means, but they just throw it around. So I agree with her, but I don't think that she would agree with me that the Democrat Party more closely represents the values of all three systems, socialism, communism, and fascism. But we should take a look at not just what these terms mean, but which party more closely represents the values of these three political systems. Because it's easy, as she says, to just throw terms around, but it's another thing to actually look at who more closely represents those terms and those values. So let's roll into it.
So I'm just going to do a bare bones breakdown of these terms just to give you a heads up. Socialism is a theory that emerged in Europe after the French Revolution, when the ideals of freedom and equality moved from simply equal rights and opportunity to the idea that maybe the amount of wealth and property could also potentially be equalized across society.
Everybody should end up in the same place, and since we didn't start in the same place, some folks might need more.
Socialism began as a reaction to capitalism, the system in which people and companies compete with each other for wealth. Socialism was therefore a political system in which the state would be in charge of the economy and provide not only social services such as healthcare for its people, but also control large sections of the private economy. Socialism is based on the idea that the creation of wealth should be controlled by the workers who create it, and it calls for public ownership and control of property, natural resources, and the means of production.
I will snatch their patent so that we will take over.
So no matter what you hear about socialism in America, there is not now, nor has there ever been, a single registered Democrat who has proposed a government-controlled private sector that shares the wealth of previously private companies among everyone. We are capitalists through and through in this nation.
This is when I wonder how people can go on the internet and say some of the stupidest things I've ever heard and twist things to meet their needs. And I wonder, do they really know that they're full of crap, or do they believe this? Like, does she actually believe that there aren't any registered Democrats who are pretty much calling for socialism, like Bernie Sanders?
Bernie Sanders is no longer alone on the debate stage. It seems like we're hearing more and more about socialism. In fact, 43% of Americans think it's a good thing.
There's a massive rise of socialism in America, and it all is coming from the left, from people like Bernie Sanders, from ideas coming from the left, like equity instead of equality.
Equality is opportunity, equity is result. The left in America is very close to communist in that view. They want equity.
Equality suggests often everybody should get the same thing, as opposed to equity, which is everyone should end up in the same place.
That's a socialist belief pushed by the left.
We are proud of the fact that equity is one of our guiding principles.
So when I hear someone like this go on the internet all the time too, she's always out there saying crazy things. She'll go on CNN, she'll go on that. She's out there saying this stuff. And I wonder to myself, like, do you know that you're full of crap, or are you intentionally lying? Because Bernie Sanders is pretty much an outright socialist. Democrats are calling for the takeover of the healthcare system, the takeover of pretty much the entire energy sector, the takeover of most of our feelings in America, calling for censorship of speech in America. I mean, how much more closely could the Democrat Party look to socialists than actually being socialists like they pretty much are?
If you vote for Democrats, they will turn the United States into Venezuela. Do you think that's a fair statement to make?
Well, if you vote for a socialist, you might get socialism.
Then there's communism and Marxism. Back in the 17 and 1800s, when people were pitching socialism, some people thought it was going too slow. They wanted to go further and faster and completely overthrow the capitalistic system.
Communism has the same goals as socialism. It just does it faster. You know, my dad always taught me that socialism is the first step to communism. You know, I have a friend named Derek, and he says a socialist is basically a communist who doesn't have the power to take everything from their citizens at gunpoint yet.
Finally, you have fascism. Fascism is basically a totalitarian government, or a government that rules every part of society, from schools and businesses to the media and the arts, where the leader, who is usually a charismatic populist, has full top-down control and answers to no one. Does any of that sound familiar?
When you wake up in the morning, you look in the mirror, and you say, what am I going to do today? Well, there are going to be people who come to my campus with an alternative idea, and I want to shut them down and call the cops and accuse them of defamation, because on this campus...
And I do.
That's fascism.
Hitler was left-wing in that he believed in socialism. Remember, Nazism is National Socialism. Very few people know that, especially if you go to college where you don't learn much.
So the real danger isn't necessarily socialism, communism, or fascism per se on its own. It's totalitarianism. It's this total takeover of people's lives that we see promoted through the Democrat Party. This forcing of masks and mandates and vaccines, this forcing of censorship and the forcing of being nice to everybody, this forcing of the political correctness, this forcing of the takeover of the healthcare systems and the energy sectors, and there's other ones I'm not thinking of right now, but these ideas are totalitarian takeovers of everything. And that's the ultimate goal of the Democrat Party. It's American freedom and freedom against everything else. You can label it whatever you want, but just know that everything else is an enemy against America and American freedom. So anybody promoting ideas against either one of those things, freedom or American freedom, they're an enemy of America, and it doesn't matter what their label are. If you're still with me, consider hitting that like and subscribe button, commenting or sharing. Thank you for watching.